I'm used to it being longer, and it just reminds me of the conference, we just keep
Right?
dancing.
I was
Yeah.
just having the very same thought about the conference. I was having a flashback
Yeah.
to how awesome it was, first of all. And then Spotify this week did their wrap for the year. Have you done
Okay.
yours yet?
Yeah, with the music and the songs that you've
Right?
been listening to.
And of course, one of the ones that came up was one that we played at the conference.
Okay.
Um, and just because we would play it on breaks. And so it was my number one
Mm,
song. And it just made me smile. And it was like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, that was so good and so
it
fun.
was. Yeah,
Right?
and I've been recovering and everything. I'm like, you know what? I'm about to get out here. We're about to be moving our boomsies with Satima, and it's gonna be great. Whoop,
Right?
whoop, all the stuff we have coming up with our book signings and everything. But let's get started. Should we
Well,
jump into
first of
yes,
all, can I say welcome back? I am
yes.
glad you're feeling better. I am
Thank
glad
you
to
so
see you.
much.
We missed you last week. We called your
Yes,
name and we're
thank you.
just grateful that you're feeling better and yes
Yeah.
to getting started and let's do this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Hi, ladies. I am Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial business owner, the founder of Shalo Glow LLC, and an Amazon bestselling author. I am your champion for natural self care and practical business systems, and I help you glow from head to toe.
Woo! Hey y'all, I'm Christine Gotro, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, dancing social worker, and also an Amazon best-selling author who helps you upgrade yourself and community care.
Yes, together we are Women Connected in Wisdom, a podcast grounded in the eight dimensions of wellness.
And we like to get together every week for weekly intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness. How do we do this? How do
So many questions, right? And today we're going to be talking about a lot. We're going to be talking about how we face fear, right? How we operate in a shameless way. But for the dimension of wellness that we're diving into, we're going to be focused on emotional and mental wellness. And so we can start the conversation. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the definition. What do you think, Christine?
I think
And then we could talk.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I'm excited to bring our guest on the stage. I mean, I'm always excited to bring our guest on the stage,
Yeah,
but
no, really.
today's guest, y'all, come on.
Yeah, yeah, right. Okay, so emotional and mental wellness is about being aware and intentional of our feelings in all situations. It includes having the capacity and tools to handle and express these emotions in a healthy manner and the ability to learn and grow from experience. Emotional well being encourages our autonomy, useful making skills, and striving toward good mental health.
Mm, so much I could say about that. And,
Right?
we were doing a pre show with a guest that we have coming to y'all next year,
Yeah.
and Jen. And we told her we'd give her a shout out on today's show because she was talking about how how forest bathing is a thing, which we've talked about on the show before going into. So she has decided, and she's trying to convince her husband, we were on board immediately, that Christmas light bathing is a thing
It's
where
definitely
we're like we're in. It's a thing where
it's on
you
the
turn
podcast
off
now.
the lights in your house and you just sit by your Christmas tree and you soak it in. And so that to me, what a great tool for emotional and mental wellness.
Yeah. And with a lot of this stuff, what we know is that we want to see more women based research, right? We need to see more
Right?
black body based research. So stuff is
Hmm.
accurate, right? And with my psychology degree, we have not done the research yet, but I would genuinely argue that the joy receptors, right? Those dopamine receptors that happen. Everybody loves Christmas trees. So if we know bathing is a thing, we know that Christmas and holidays can spark joy. I think
Hmm.
I think it's a thing, and maybe we could talk about us doing the research to get it there. But it's on a podcast now, episode 95, and it's official. It's a
It's
thing. So
official.
what is the official name? Christmas light forest
What
bathing?
did she say? Well, I don't know.
Did I write it down?
Well, she said Christmas tree light bathing, and this was from our new friend Sarah Lanier, and
No,
she's going to be a
that's
guest next year.
This was from
Oh
Jen.
no, because
Jen
Sarah's
Hope.
our guest today.
Yep,
Sorry. Oh, Christine.
that's
All
okay.
right.
They
Thank
get the
you.
gift early this week, right? They find out who they're talking to because she's amazing.
Right.
Yes.
All right.
But we'll figure out the name, and we're going to talk to Jen next. year, and we could talk about it, but I thought it was definitely relevant, especially with me having the Christmas tree up. I told Jen, I said, "Hey, this is why I put it up in November, because we work so much. Again, I've been recovering, so I've had the opportunity to be at home and enjoy the benefits of the Christmas light tree bathing, right? But a lot of times we're working, so between the time that you're working and not home, you might see the Christmas tree for 5 minutes and then put it up. So we put it up in November to get those thankful vibes, those celebratory vibes going. Yeah.
Well, I have a confession to make.
Okay.
My tree is up and the
Mhm.
lights are up, but that's it. So that I love the light so much that I'm okay. If not,
Mhm.
everything else will get put on, but especially before the kids come home from college, because
Yeah.
tradition and routine, and they like it.
Right.
But to me, the lights are really. I mean, I love unwrapping all the ornaments and the stories, but the lights are.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. I think about our guests in the year that we decorated our tree, and we had to have some I'll use what my friend Adrian says, some character building conversations. Our guests really taught me, like, hey, there's a certain way that things go, and you want to stay organized, we want to be effective, this is what it should look like when you design it, and all this stuff. And I always loved her for the clarity of direction and just the knowledge of systems. It helps with the overwhelm. We were talking about that on one of our pre-interviews, right? The overwhelm of
Right.
everything. But also, I'm excited to jump into this conversation with her about emotional and mental, because she does talk about being shameless and how do we let go of those expectations around the holidays, what we should have done, what is supposed to happen at a certain time, and just appreciate the joy. Like, hey, thank you for the Christmas tree and the lights. Before everything else is put on
Right.
it, before it's the stuff is put under it, my
Right.
joy is already sparked and you're already winning, and being able to relax in that and go to the next step.
Absolutely. All
Yes.
right. Can we call
Let's
our
bring it.
guest up? Are you
Let's
ready?
do it. Yes.
All right. So, our guest today, y'all, is Sara J, a shameless ambassador for the Shameless brand. She focuses mostly in the areas of shamelessness and fear, and the two components that hinder both women and men in truly doing the life on life's terms. She focuses on self worth, and self love while confronting the areas of shame in our lives. So excited to welcome Sara J to the stage.
Yes.
Woohoo!
You
Why are
guys,
you laughing?
because when you read it, I'm like, who is this woman who's so
She's
fearless?
amazing.
And then I
And
thought about it. I was like, that's me. I'm excited.
Yes.
Thank you for that. That was one heck of an introduction, Christine. TED Talk
right,
too.
right. I am so excited to have this conversation because I think shame plagues
Oh
so
yeah.
many people.
Oh
And especially around this time of year,
yes.
when Instagram is popping
Oh my
and
gosh.
TikTok and
Ugh.
everybody's got things perfect. That's why I just went ahead and confessed up front. Here's where I'm at, y'all.
But
And I feel pretty good that the tree's up by the 7th, to be real
I,
honest.
I'm gonna make a confession. I don't have a tree, and I was nearing homelessness for 2 weeks ago because I was like,
Mm,
where I'm gonna live, and it wasn't because I didn't have a home. It was because I hadn't put my foot down and say, Sara, make a decision. So decisiveness is the next question. But yeah, I have no tree, but I have an image of a tree in my mind.
Hey,
right,
hey, and again, like you said, well, for me and you, it's always been that the transparency of, hey, this is where I am, right? When I think about our authors and Women Connected in Wisdom, the trials and the triumph, I always think about you being that transparent, said, hey, I look great, lipstick is on. 2 weeks
Always
ago,
going to be, yes.
didn't know where I was gonna be. And it can be both, you know what I mean? And the dimensions and the pieces of yourself. I love how you
Absolutely.
show up as you.
Thank you. You know what's funny? That is the one thing anybody who's ever met me will say is like, you won't have to guess with Sara. I'm gonna let you know. I'm gonna walk in like, look, my whole life is falling apart and it's okay. And I'm going to help you get your life together, but mine is falling apart. But let's go have fun. Let's laugh. Let's eat. Let's enjoy ourselves. So at least you always know. And I think that is the whole shameless piece being
Yeah.
able to exist between the two dichotomies. Two things can be true. You
Hmm.
can be happy and mad at the same time, but you still can feel ashamed while still breaking down shame at the same time and still do what you've got to do. It doesn't have to hinder you. But as we dive into the conversation, I know we'll talk a little bit more about how shame is paralytic and it stops people because they can't. live in the two spaces. So I'm excited to be here, ladies.
Yes. So let's talk about it. Let's do it now. So when you think about where you are and the different parts in a journey that might be like, ooh, this is the part I might not put on social media, right? We'll dive into that conversation too a little bit later.
Okay.
But for you and yourself, when you're like you wake up out of your beautiful bed, because I know how you are about your space. So you wake up, lovely, right? And you say, this is this is one of the pieces of my story. How do you what helps you stay shameless when you think about a detail that you're looking forward to change?
Okay, so I can actually give you guys a true live example. And it's definitely an area of the podcast that I don't speak much about, but it's my love life. Okay. Okay. So I am a corporate trainer. I am in a different state every single week. Okay. And I had the nerve to get a second job because bills and errands got me in a chokehold a little bit, and I want to be on time. And then I have the nerve to be a part of a book club and a podcast and a blog and a run club. And so, like, literally, all of my time is monopolized to everything but me until it's time for me to make time for me. So each morning, I do wake up beautifully in the beds, hotel beds, my beds, it's fly. However, I am constantly reminded, like, Sarah, you don't have a significant other. But then in that moment, there is shame there because society pushes women to, like, if you don't got no man, what you doing? If you don't have no kids at your age, what you doing? What's wrong with you? Are you broken? And I have to remind myself, Sarah, the type of man that I want to be with, fortunately, has to be okay with me being on the road and then also having a life outside of the life that I live and the purpose that I'm connected to, and that I can't step away from all of those until it's time for me to step away from all of those. And so I just remind myself it's a part of the process. And so I immediately remove the shame. I don't live in that moment, which is difficult because it's easy to throw a pity party. Turns out that's the best party I like to attend. Attendance, one, there's food, there's drinks, and it's it's a bunch of sadness. He's like, who doesn't want to show up to a pity party? Me, pick me. But in that moment, I'm like, okay, no, Sarah, like you could do this, but this is what you're going to do. And you can't be ashamed about it because if you are, then that means everything that you're working towards is useless. And so I get out of the bed and I say, you know what? I'm thankful for everything that I do have up until this point. And today might be the day where something amazing happens, or I might meet that spouse or that person who can get me to the destination of a spouse. And I go on about my day. I pull out my retainer, I brush my teeth, I make my coffee, and I'm good. And so just reducing those shames in that moment is necessary. But I think most times we as humans struggle with reducing shame in the moment is because we feel ashamed about feeling shamed about the emotion. And so instead of feeling that emotion, dealing with that emotion, we talk ourselves out of that emotion. Well, I don't need no man to define me. It's like, no, 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 sis, you want a man. And it's okay. It's okay. Me too.
Right.
No, no, no. You don't want to roll over in your bed in the month of December cold because ain't nobody there. You don't want to swim in the pillows and the sheets. I feel you. Me neither. Live there for a moment, reduce the shame, no, because this is what I want, and then move forward. And so that's one of the things that literally the steps that I take in those moments like that
Yeah. I love that. And so what I hear you saying is reduce the shame in the moment.
in the
That's
moment.
huge, right?
In
And
the
for
moment.
me, that's like compare the lie versus the truth,
Uh-huh.
right? Or and then remember how far you've come, right? Okay, absolutely. I hear you warm beds in the morning in December, but also not settling, not going to accept and not crazy expectations, but
Mhm.
there's things that need to be met to make sure that my wellness is added to and not
Absolutely.
deteriorating. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
that's fair.
Yeah.
One of the things I think about on this as an embodied coach is I would love your take on it, Sarah, because I think a lot of times people they don't address the shame because first of all they recognize it but it's so uncomfortable or it's like because shame shows up in different ways in different people. Like I know for me and my body and my really light Irish skin, like
Mhm.
you will see it on my like it's a red wave that you can feel with heat and it comes all the way up. So I don't get away with telling a fib, feeling the emotion of shame, or a drink. Like those are the three things that will make me just go, whoop. So how do you help people identify, because there's difference between shame and guilt and fear and anger, and how do you help them, like you said, live in it for that moment? Like I think part of, I think what I'm trying to, I don't know that I'm asking the question the right way, but
No, that's perfect. Yeah.
okay.
How do you even acknowledge that it is shame? Well,
Right.
as you know, shame is a primary emotion. Anger, um, guilt, rage. Growing up, oh my gosh, I was a rage queen. I mean, but I wasn't raging outwardly. I would implode. Like I could be literally sitting there and a house filled with glass, just to present some imagery. Think of a glass house with everything in it, glass shattering is what I felt on the inside. Like my body would be imploding, but I could literally sit there through it while I was having an inner, outer bodily attack on myself because I'm ashamed. And because I'm ashamed and I don't know how to say, I feel shamed about this, it would turn into rage. And because it wasn't safe in our household to rage, you don't rage. No, no, no. You rage in my household, babe, you're getting raged back at. So you sat there and you felt every bit of it. And it wasn't until I was 21 in therapy where I realized there was a difference between happy and mad. Like there were more emotions. There was a big spectrum of happy and mad, sad, rage, depression, guilt, fear, doubt, shame. And so when I realized that, I'm like, okay, whoa, whoa, whoa. So shame is the stuff that makes me paralytic. It stops me in my tracks. Like I can be raging and I'll quit the job. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to have a conversation. I'm not writing an email. I'm not contacting anybody. I'm not paying these bills. I'm gonna get a big, it would literally, it was paralytic. And that's how I realized the difference between shame and rage and anger. Anger will push you to do something. Anger will have you out here removing people physically, you know? So shame is one of those things where I was like, okay, when I am feeling this, I want to do nothing. And once I figured that out, and I started to count how many times I felt like I was ready to do nothing, I was shamed all that doggone day. I was like, oh my God, like I am ashamed because I'm hungry. Like, yeah, it's like because in your household you couldn't waste. And if you wasted, then you're not hungry now. And then I was battling between that. And so literally the moment I started to identify that that was shame, I was like, I have to sit in that. And I have to ask myself, why is it shameful to be hungry? And then I do the thought work and I'm like, oh, well, because growing up, we were poor and we didn't have anything. And if you were hungry, then it pointed out to your family as a reminder that you're poor. And if you remind them that they're poor, then it's a reminder that they're not doing their part to protect you as a parent. And if that is a reminder, then they can be vengeful and retaliate. And now you're really not going to eat. So, really, you just need to sit there and not eat. And I'm like, oh, so that's why I feel shamed for wanting to make or meet my body's needs. And then you start doing that every single day. You find out you're shamed about wanting to be in a relationship, shame for getting out of the relationship, shame for wanting to talk about the relationship, shame for wanting to not talk about the relationship, shame for wanting to get a better job, shame for not being grateful for the job. And you're like,
Right.
same hole. Like it literally is. And so like I literally had to learn to sit in it and say, it is okay to feel this emotion. Now, the other opposite end of that is once you reduce that shame, then you get joy. Then you get completion. Then you get to happiness. But it isn't until you sit with that emotion. Other than that, you're putting band-aids on everything else and you'll be back. You'll
Right.
be back.
Can we just pause, and I just want to say kudos to you.
Well,
Well
thank
done
you.
on doing that work, because that's the hard work. That's the work, right?
The hard work.
That is the hard work,
Yeah.
and that's the work that a lot of people, it's scary, right? It's big, it's life changing for the better, but when you're in it sometimes you don't feel that. You're like like, but so kudos to you for
Thank
doing the
you.
work and then for sharing that work, cuz what I was hearing in your story, Sarah, is
Mhm.
like your purpose and your mission and your drive found you.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Found me in my shower 2017, could not get out of my bed, struggling with acne, shamed about acne, shamed because my family probably gave me the acne, and trying to figure out why I'm feeling shame that I can't get an insurance or a dermatologist to help me with and the list goes on and on and on. And then you know what? Then you're stuck in your bed for 28 days, can't move because it's paralytic. And it was all shame centered. But to your point, and there was something that you had just said, being able to, one, what the journey finds you, the purpose it found me, and to not be ashamed to tell it. But what's interesting, and I don't want to say sick about it, is shame was something that came and found me. And I was like, oh, I don't want to be shameless anymore. Each time I get on a platform as such, I feel ashamed because I have to retell the story. But every time I talk about the shame that I'm experiencing, whether with myself or others, it reduces the shame a little bit more. So it's kind of like I have no choice but to do it. And it's like, but I don't want to do it. But I have no choice because the only way to reduce it is to confront it every single time, you know? But it's definitely a journey. And I'll be honest, I think more people would be willing to take the journey, but the fear of finding out who are you on the other side of it. Like there would be times I would be on my floor, like, I got to get past this. But then I would also be very scared of what comes out of it. Like, what happens when I find out that I'm really fearful for X, Y, and Z because, and I did some deep digging.
Mm.
I don't want, you know, so I think a lot of people fear that.
That's why I think like your work in the world and being a coach and guiding people through, like, I think it's good to have a guide on that journey sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So if you get too far in, you've got somebody holding your hand or pulling you back out,
Yeah.
or somebody even that knows you're going on the journey. Because, you
Yeah.
know, one of the things I do for fun is hike. And, you know, when you're a hiker, you're supposed to let somebody know where you're going. You're supposed to have emergency rations. And if you're on a long hike, you literally sign in and tell people when you're coming back. And I think this kind of emotional and mental work is the same thing. You know, whether it's a
Absolutely.
therapist and or a coach or a, you know, I think that's an important thing that I want our listeners to know. You don't have to do this alone. And in
Yeah.
fact, it's better if you don't do it alone.
Hmm.
100%.
I want to get even more specific, right? Because the first step of self-care for Christine, right, still point, is separating, right, what's mine and what's not mine. And you would listen to this story, and a lot of times when we talk about individuals without homes, right, the understanding is that a lot of times it may have been something that they did, right? Sarah's beautiful, able-bodied, educated. She needs help. She could probably figure it out. I don't need to help her. But wait a minute, because, and this is what I think about Sarah, right? She told me they will make you crazy and call you crazy in the same sentence.
Shannon, you were listening the whole time.
I was
They
listening the whole
will
time.
make
You
you
crazy.
crazy. And then we'll call you crazy. Like,
Yeah.
look this crazy broad.
Yeah. So when we had the podcast and we were talking about, let's talk about occupational wellness real quick, right?
Okay.
And intentionally underdeveloping people and then making it seem like there's a reason, well, she wasn't qualified, when really we didn't tell, show, do, repeat. Maybe this person was just confronted because of something. Did we ever have the conversation where the system's held accountable? And so that's just in one place. But when we talk about women and we talk about all 8 dimensions of wellness in history with America where we are, right? If women are getting paid less, Black women are getting paid less, and living expenses are going up, your personal situation was, I've been traveling every week. I haven't made the decision. I haven't got back to the paperwork and followed up with my team that's going to help me, right? But sometimes it's the money didn't make it up to what it needed to. I don't have the rent and the deposit, and the financial literacy behind that. Or even the social scheme, right? It's when in your story, what I heard was, if the providers of the food were better off in their financial wellness, then the social wellness of the house would have been different. The environmental wellness would have been different.
Hmm.
The mental emotional wellness would have been better because there's no stress for the finances. And
Absolutely.
so when we're talking about women, and I was listening to Meghan Markle's podcast, Archetypes, and this archetype of the diva and the person that just has to have it all together. Well, I better have it together because Bill wants his money every month on the first. And so this is not me thinking that, oh, well, Shannon thinks she's better than you because I went to Kennesaw State, graduated cum laude, same day as Sarah, by the way. We
Same
graduated
day.
together. Okay. But yes, even as college educated, and but beyond that, with Sarah's degrees and Christine's degrees, right? As women, we're still going to make less. And that's not your fault.
Yeah.
And so there's no shame for you to pick up. But if we're not honest and having the conversations about, well, what happened? Oh, it's not you just being crazy. You're really getting paid less. The numbers are not
Significantly.
lying. So the
And
shame
then
isn't
talk
for you
too
to hold.
crazy too, and talk to a little sideways too,
Okay, sideways.
because who are you coming in here telling me how to do my job? I tell my clients all the time, well, I will go sit down.
Right.
I'm not doing this with you.
And so that's why I love the conversations we get to have when we talk about across all 8 dimensions. What do I need right now? Right?
Yeah.
As a child, you needed to eat. You again, there's no shame for you to pick up for your body being physically hungry. You cannot stop it from doing it. It's going to happen every day. Right? So that is physical wellness. That's a need that needs to be met. And now I get to scan my environmental wellness and see what's going on and how do we balance it so we can operate on a healthy level. And we have the right to ask that from the people around us, from ourselves every day to make sure that we're maintaining our wellness and not just for us today. Like we don't want to live paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
Next month, I know I got to eat too. What about some passive income? What about passive income for those bills and those errands? And you know that is taken care of. Now
Yeah.
your mental and emotional wellness is freed up. We could talk about some goals. We could talk about the weight loss and the consistent regimen for the acne and everything else, but if the food is if we're still on survival and we're kept there,
Survival.
yeah, then the shame is not for me to pick up.
Yeah. To your point though, Shannon, living in survival mode for nearly 24 years of my life, difficult to say the least, because when I get asked questions like, why aren't you married? It's like, well, when everyone was picking partners in their 20s, I'm sorry, I was trying to pay rent. And then you think about, well, why didn't you do more trips with your girlfriends? It's like, well, those were luxuries when I was too busy trying to make sure food was on the table and bills was on there. And so being on my own since 18, yes, I do have a leg up over most. So some people's worst day is my normal day, just very normal. Like, oh, your car fell apart. Me too. No, no big deal. No big deal. I can put it together for you. I got you. I'm away. So on one end, that's the blessing. But the other end is when it comes to the soft skills of managing the luxury pieces, like you said, I had the money to get movers and do the movers. I just didn't have the mental capacity to call people and be like, will you move my stuff? How many items do you have? I didn't have that. I'm like, this stuff has to go. Next thing you know, I'm moving box springs, I'm moving couches, because at this point, survival mode kicks in and that's what has to go. And so there's some benefits, there's some burdens, more burdens.
I think what I am hearing in your story too, and resonating with some of it, Sarah, is like when you grow up fast for whatever reason, for your environment, and you become strong and capable and this incredible powerhouse of a woman, that sometimes we immediately flip back into, oh, I can do that, when we don't stop to pause to think, oh, but should I do that? Like, we just know we got it because we got pretty much anything that comes our way. But, do we
So
need to have it?
I hear both, right? So I hear that, and then I hear B, the capacity is reached. I don't
Hmm.
have the capacity to ask
Yeah.
you for help, and a lot of times, because especially now, right? We talked about how decades ago women weren't getting credit cards without their husband's
Hmm.
signature. So what that means is that we have the opportunity to do a lot of things for the first time. And
Mhm.
so it's the first time I'm doing it, and I'm actually doing it and killing it, and I don't have the capacity to do it for the first time, learn how to do it and talk about it. That's a lot, especially as a trainer. When you're doing your job and telling somebody else, here's a whole nother set of conversations I have to have. So if my capacity is reached, and so now comes the question of how can we maintain a realistic capacity to keep it sustainable? And that's what we have the conversations about.
So that is a really great question, Shannon. And honestly, I literally have an answer. Like I'm not gonna make this up. Like that's the beautiful part. Okay. So I was sitting in my two-bedroom home in Ohio. Cold, very cold there. Um, and I remember saying, I'm gonna go buy some candles. So I try to go buy some candles. And speaking of credit cards, my Victoria's Secret split with Bath and Body Works, blah, 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 blah. I didn't have a card, couldn't look it up. I said, you know what? Forget it. I don't want any candles. I'm going to go to Victoria's Secrets because, we're taught, do something nice for yourself. I was like, I'm going to buy, I don't know, some bath soap. So I'm trying to do it. And I remember it just being very challenging. I don't know what I end up getting. I don't even think I end up getting anything. I just remember it being very challenging. The line was very long. And then when I got up there, the lady was like, I said, hey, how you doing? And she said, good. And that's a pet peeve of mine. If I ask you how you doing, ask me how I'm doing. And like, it drives me nuts. And that'll make me break. I said, you know what? And I just walked out. And the first thing that came out of my mouth was, I just don't like it. I was like, I don't like any of it. And as I'm walking, I was like, I don't like working. I don't like this. Like I was listing out things like, I don't like any of this. And so to answer your question is get honest with yourself. Like we lie to ourselves so much. And we put like really pretty Google words on top of it. And we try to wrap it in a bow. And then we put a smile on and we just like, I'm going to go do it. It's getting honest with yourself and recognizing that you have choices. Now, because I am a single individual and I had to move, did I have a choice to move my stuff? No, because I needed to move my stuff. But yes, I could have left the stuff. I just would have had to buy more stuff. So then it becomes a cost analysis breakdown in your mind. You're like, do you want to buy more stuff or do you just want to go ahead and put up this investment? I think a lot of times if we are more honest with ourselves and we say, hey, I don't like this, but I know I need to do this, or hey, I don't like this, but this has to get done, then we can be more sufficient. And so I have like a little thing that I do. I have red, green, and yellow. Green is what I love to do. Green is doing stuff like this. Green is enjoying a glass of wine. Green is being able to jog. Now, yellow is I might need to go to work so that I can afford the glass of wine and be able to pay the bills where I'm gonna drink the glass of wine out. Now, red is the bill paying part and the tracking of my money, the stuff I don't enjoy doing, but I can't do green without red. And yellow is the passive parts where I might can get by, but it'll pile up and it'll turn into red. And then I also created a joy list. For every task that I had to do, I'm talking from working to catching a flight to checking in. I check in online. I don't do that no more. That's for peons. Oh no. I got the app on my phone. You know what I'm saying? I'm ready. Like I have like sat down and tried to like make everything simplified. And for every 2 to 3 tasks, I write something that brings me joy in between it. You know? And
I like
so and so if there was a pile up of things, and so you said, how do I not get to capacity? Because the goal is getting to capacity is you're gone. That's
you
not
did too much.
you're
Yeah.
doing too much. Now you're in the red. So you want to actually recognize where capacity is and get near, right? And stop here because you'll always need residual because guess what? You don't know what's going to happen in the rest of the day. So if anything, you happen to be near and you get to your car in the middle of winter and you have no air in your tire, you have something extra to play with. But if you go here and this is capacity and this is you get to that car with no air in it,
Flip.
over it.
Yeah.
Oh, done. You on
Yeah.
channel 5, 7 p.m. Strange woman lost it. Like we already know what that looks like. you
You
know?
know, you talking about that, Sarah. There have literally been times in my life, and not recently. I want to knock on some wood because we've been doing the Women Connecting Wisdom podcast for almost 2 years now, and really focusing on wellness and balance and health. But there have been times in my past in my life that I've literally run out of gas,
Mhm.
and that is my signal that I am empty, like that I'm past capacity. It's the physical manifestation of, girl, like you,
Too much. Too much.
right? It's,
You know what my mom would say? We would get in the car and I would be getting ready to drive, and she'd be like, she would look at my gas tank and she's like, E doesn't mean enough.
ah,
You are empty. E don't
woo.
mean enough. And you know how you be thinking, oh, I'll get gas in the morning. No, 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 because you played yourself. You need to get gas tonight because guess what? Tomorrow comes with its own troubles. And E doesn't mean enough. Well, I'll make it up the hill. No, 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 no. You don't know what you'll need once you get up the hill. And so I literally had to write down when I talk about to braiding my hair, I outsource that. I don't braid my hair no more. That's for peons. Oh, no, no, no. And guess what? I gotta pay for that. So that's why I have a second job. I'm like, you know what? I don't want to wear mascara no more. I'm gonna get lashes because that's for peons. Okay, you got 225 a month? Like, And so I literally wrote everything down. Literally, I don't even go to the nail counter. I don't even look at a nail color no more. I walk in and I say, I want this color. I was getting stressed out looking at all the colors. And that became, it used to be fun. It's no longer fun anymore. And I don't look at their little pamphlet no more. Oh, you want gel? No, I want polish. Like I'm not gonna do it because I've seen how quickly I can be triggered and faced with anxiety, shame, doubt, fear, until I'll quit the whole task. And so I literally had to write down everything that I do. And for every
That's
two
a
to three
great
tasks,
strategy.
oh man, every 2 to 3 tasks, put something that brings you joy. I have a Peacock app on my phone. I watch Suits. I got all my podcasts that I like. I listen to a podcast because there has to be something joyous about the day to keep me going to get from here to there.
I
But if
love
it's
that.
all task, I won't enjoy the process, and I dang sure I'm not going to get it to enjoy the arrival. I'll be too tired to enjoy it.
Mhm.
And so that's one of the things that I do that keeps me. I don't ever get at capacity. I don't do that.
Right.
I'm
Okay, so
here.
it and that's my question. So that and some people need a very specific, right? So for our black and white people, what would you say that percentage is? I'm feeling like 80%.
No, I say 75. Don't play
Okay.
yourself. Yeah, 75. If you can get anywhere between 70 to 75% and tap out there
Mhm.
and allow the rest of the day to be the day, you'll be at 80 because
Yeah.
you 10% of the stuff you can't prepare for. But if you go to 80, you run the risk of getting to 80 to 90 traffic.
That's
So
still at capacity.
that's still
Yeah.
at capacity. 70 to 75 should be your barometer for life. And then you need a barometer for happiness and joy and pleasure. And my barometer for pleasure is easily attainable on an A level, a B level, a C level. A level, glass of wine, satisfied. B level, glass of wine, bomb dish, maybe an Italian meal. Okay, we talking high level, C level. Whew. Mykonos, Bahamas, fine brother, phone off. How often do I do that? I don't. But the A and B, you got to make you some attainables.
Not yet.
Not yet.
We're there.
It's on the
Not
way.
yet. We it's
Yeah,
oh,
it's coming.
definitely definitely
It's
on the way.
coming.
Mhm.
But that A level, I know I can easily be at 75 and easily make myself my barometer for happiness done. It's not this long algorithm. It's not all things have to be perfect. The sun got to be shining. You know what I'm saying? The moon got to be lit. No, no, no. You'll never get to it. And so even when you say, how do you reach these levels? Like one, creating that joy list. In that joy list is your task list. These are the things that have to get done. But also, on top of that, create your barometer for happiness list. If you don't know what makes you happy or what brings you joy or brings you pleasure, you will be subject to humans to do it for you all the time. And you will always be disappointed. And I say that with a smile because you will.
I love that. I love the creating your barometer for happiness list.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I think
And
that's powerful.
it reminds me of still point. We've been talking about that every so often. So Sarah, I don't know if you know this. Christine's first book is Still Point, a
Okay.
caregiver's guide to reclaiming joy, ease, and what's the last part?
Time to breathe.
And time to breathe. Right. And so throughout the day, I've been talking about every 2 hours, every so often, like you're saying, every 2 to 3 tasks. And I think it's really important to rest and rejoice. Cecile
Yes.
talks about that, right? To
Mhm.
celebrate. And it reminds me of actually our day. And we have a lot of stuff on, you and I, Sarah, have a lot of memories that help me maintain my wellness. But I think about the day we graduated with our bachelor's, right? We
Oh
didn't
yeah,
really have anything planned and we went out. Right, we're at a table playing cards, enjoying ourselves, whatever we did that night, right? It was something light
it
for
was.
graduating 4
Yes.
years. We held it down. In NAACP,
It's
Res Life, all this stuff, right? And didn't have anything planned. And
yeah.
so for me, and that's okay if that's how we wanted to spend our day.
Yeah.
But for me, it's been, what is this joy list, right? What can you do for yourself to fill it up? And then everything somebody else brings is extra. I
Eh,
really like happy.
that's the key, right?
Yeah,
But it starts with breaking down that shame factor.
yeah.
Because a lot of people don't want to tell you that they at they limit, right?
Hmm.
So you break that down and you say, I'm at my limit.
Hmm.
And I need help with not getting to my limit because I don't like who I am when I'm at
Yeah,
my limit. And then once you do that, like you said,
yeah.
you make that joyless. I'm telling it, stuff falls off your back so easily. Folks talking, I literally say, okay, if that bothers you, 30 seconds to be mad about it, move on, be done with
Yeah,
it. You know?
because your time and the mental space. You got to pay rent for more than rent for the mental space. So I want to delve a little deeper into the self love part of it because we
Okay.
talk a lot about shame, right? So you do your joy list to make sure that you're intentionally filling yourself up. What
Yeah.
else do you do on the self worth side and then the self love side of your work?
So the self love side, you guys, is super, is simple. I stay with 2 tubes of red lipstick. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not being funny. It is a real thing. Like I could be having a day, I will pop some red lipstick on and and it goes to just show that some of self-love can be vain because at the end of the day, if you don't like what you see, you don't perceive that anybody else will, and then you will treat yourself accordingly. And so that's like a real psychology. And so that's one of the things that I do. But then I also make sure I take care of myself. And it's a very difficult thing to do. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to make it sound like it's easy. I am on the road every single week. So some of these hotels have gyms, some of them don't. Some got Planet Fitnesses, some of them won't. Some got a LA, some of them can't. Sometimes the elevation's so high I can't even breathe. Utah. Okay. So then I have to get creative with that, but I have to make mental space to be creative in what that looks like. So I have my little resistance band, and when I walk in, I put those around my legs, and I do every task with those on. And then there are other times when there's really nice gyms, rare, but it happens, and I work out really hard. And sometimes working out really hard is walking, and other times it's jogging, or other times it's running. But I set that pace for myself, and I am kind to myself enough to be able to show up for it. Meal prepping is another thing that I do. I definitely would not dare eat 3 meals a day on the road. And then I'm going to be honest, it's kind of sappish, but I am a continual journaler. I have a diary. I started off with a Dear Diary, and I sit in silence 10 to 30 minutes, maybe even an hour, to just write down my thoughts. And that's not to keep record of all my dirty little secrets and someone finds them later. But it's a way that I flesh out my thoughts for clarity. And so that when I am encountering the world, I am not paying people what they don't deserve because I've already fleshed it out. So that's one of the things that I self love on myself. Now, self worth is a tricky one because I was taught that self worth was one of those things that you buy into. And so for me, self worth is me communicating with myself every single day that I'm worth everything that I desire. And so it's a little more simplified so I'm not buying myself. But when I think of self worth, obviously being a shamed person, self doubt is key. So, like the pity parties, and it's never going to happen. You're not going to get it. And so, for every doubtful thought, I say, Sarah, you deserve that, and you're worth that, and you can get that. And I I don't leave my self-worth to be dictated by others because I wouldn't have any. And so it is mine, self-worth is mine to maintain.
I love that. So when we talk about our wisdom in action, so every week we do an action step, right? Because you and
Okay.
I know it's not just about knowing all this amazing stuff. You could be as educated as possible, right?
Oh,
And still
100%.
not put it into action. So, for emotional and mental wellness, what are you doing this week out of everything we talked about, or maybe something else for yourself?
Honestly, I am actually okay. I'll tell you a small story. So last month was November. I said, Sarah, no doubt November. You're not allowed to self doubt yourself the whole month of November.
I like that.
First day I failed.
Hmm.
The first thing I said, I ain't gonna make it out of this situation. I was like, ooh, I got myself.
Hmm.
So now it's no doubt December. And that really came about because I'm such a creative. So I'm constantly imagining big things. However, I am in my body and I've experienced so much disappointment. And so I constantly have to battle that. And so when I realized I had been self doubting myself for so long and I had gotten so used to defeat that I perceived, though I am in a very beautiful situation, I had to tell myself no more self doubt. So no self doubt December.
I
And
love it.
so, yeah. So for every opportunity that comes across my desk, the answer is yes. And even when I came on for this, I was like, okay, my lipstick is failing. I was like, no, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's looking
Popping.
good. It's popping. It's great. It's on point. And that's just how I have to do it. So for one of my action step is no doubt December. Like I cannot self doubt myself.
I love it. And if
Mm.
I could give some space for it too, maybe when the doubtful thoughts come up, writing what instead is true.
Yeah.
You know what I
Oh yeah.
mean? So,
Mhm.
You're
and
saying
I,
it too.
yeah,
Like, oh yeah, I'm
and
gonna
just
do that.
absolutely, you're gonna get it. And I want to give space too for the space to say no. Earlier you said, well, why aren't you married yet? Like you can meet and court and propose and marry yourself. So if they made it a no, well, maybe in my case, he chose to live with somebody else. I chose to not marry him. You know what I mean? Like that's
He
my
married
reason.
someone else, you guys. It's
Yeah.
fine. Please stop
And
asking.
I'm still amazing,
Yes,
exactly. So,
yes,
yeah, so I said because I said no, and
yes.
Mhm.
just like you said, we have choices, and there can be celebration in that instead of shame because, "Oh, I said no, I'm still over," like, because I haven't found him yet, that's why,
Yes. I love
and
that.
that's it. Yeah. What about you, Christine? What's your wisdom in action this week?
I have so loved this conversation. I think my hashtag wisdom in action is going to be hashtag make your joy list.
I
Yes.
need to make mine. I
Hmm.
need to make mine. Mine
Yes.
is ooh, I have a couple, and I must say hold on, let me write this one down too. I'm going to say hashtag. Are you ready for this, Sarah? I think it's going to surprise you.
Oh my God. If
Uh,
it has anything to do with that move we did
no, it's nothing
in
with the
19
move.
hours,
With my flip flops and not packed, that we're
I'm
not talking about
I'm
it.
I'm still mad.
We got to work through it. You have a choice to let it go.
Mm.
I'm letting it go. But I definitely hear you. And my hashtag for this week is hashtag loudly start. You, and that's from your blog post this week, right? I
Loudly,
got you.
that's good.
Yeah. And especially when we talk about like emotional and mental wellness for entrepreneurs, I think about Laurel Ann Stark and her research. And as a business owner, if you do not know about my product, that's on me, right? I need to tell you about the Glow Kits. I need to tell you about our Amazon best-selling book. And you have to be a raving fan as a business owner and as as a trainer, right? All this stuff has to be dictated correctly with shamelessness as you're dealing with the person, some of your direct reports, right? How do you support their development and be shameless. But you have to do that loudly sometimes. And as women, that can kind of mess with our emotional and mental um, wellness and where we stand because we're taught to be humble or, be a certain way in a certain situation. But now as a business owner, you have to operate differently in order to be effective. So that's my hashtag.
Okay, and it's so funny. To your point, to the loudly start. I'm telling you, when people kept saying quiet quitting, I was like, when did people, like, I literally said, when did I loudly start? Like, I did not do that. I was not heart connected, or purpose connected.
Yeah.
And to your point, that is how we get that type of intentionality that employers and other people want. You want me staying late? It's got to be connected. And connected in wisdom, connected in purpose, connected to the vision. If I'm not, then just know that this is another stepping stone. And thank you, Shannon. I appreciate that. That's amazing.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for everything that you've always done. Again, I've loved your voice, love how shameless you are. And you've definitely been one of my women connected in wisdom from my taking these hairs off of my beard, taking these beards off, making sure my
Or I had
eyebrows
you.
are drawn on.
But you
Thank
can
you.
never say, and the ladies will say, Sarah gonna make sure you on point. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna leave you hanging. I got
Crazy. No.
no.
No, I love it. So you guys can connect to Sarah. It's streaming down below if you're watching us live at the shameless brand.me. She has the podcast, find it on Spotify, right? She has the blog. I love watching you on LinkedIn. So get connected so that you can learn more about operating shameless, how to do your self work, and how to operate in self worth and self love.
Yay.
Thank you so much for this conversation, Sarah.
Yeah.
We
No.
will put all your stuff on our
Show
show
notes.
notes so
Yeah.
everybody can find it. We had a couple of people listening today.
How
Thank
you say
you
it?
for that
Sade?
comment, saying such
Yes.
a great convo, loved it, and thanks. And
Yes.
we just, whether you are listening live or you're listening on your podcast app, thanks for being here with us. And Sarah, thanks for being here and taking time out of your day to come and talk to us about this important topic.
Yes.
Thank you guys. Now I'm sweating profusely. It's one of my new
Still
responses
look
and
great.
haven't to doing one of these. So I'm gonna go clear that up and I look forward to doing more connection with you guys.
Yes,
We're
looking forward
grateful
to
to be
it.
connected with you. Have an
Talk to you
awesome
soon.
day.
So good.
So fun.
We
Thank
knew that though.
you. So I don't think we said at the top of the show, she was one of your college roommates, right?
Yes, so met Sarah. I believe we met at an NAACP meeting and we were talking about stuff. So I think we used to walk from like the meeting to another class or whatever we had going on and graduated together. I did my cap, I did her cap, and and even after college we moved together. And she was intentional. She said, if the jobs are over here, we need to be closer to the city. And I moved from Kennesaw up here to Gwinnett, and then we met in Gwinnett, and here goes everything else.
Hmm.
So
And
yeah,
now
definitely
she's
one
in
of my
Utah.
yeah, yeah, and working and somewhere else next week. So working
Right.
around the country, and how do you balance it? So I knew the ladies would benefit from hearing from her.
Absolutely. What a powerful spirit. And the other thing I love is, showing up as authentic and who you are and what's going on. And I love that you've stayed connected because it's
Mhm.
easy sometimes to lose track of people after school or after college or after a job. And yeah, that piece of staying connected with
Yeah.
each other and that we don't have to do it by ourselves, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, for me, and when we go back to why women connected in wisdom, because I didn't have my family,
Mhm.
so it was me and my dad, and if he was married or not would dictate what the rest of the group looked like. So when I met women along my journey, again, who were specifically intentional about saying, "Hey, this is what you need. Hey, let me help you." Those type of people, and even in Sarah and I's relationship, sometimes we go a while without talking. Before I used to open my bedroom door, we make breakfast together. Now it's every few months catching up and making sure that we check in and know how if that person's too
Mhm.
far out in the waves, you can help them out. But if not, we'll catch you on the journey. So it's been amazing.
Mm,
Yeah.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
Oh, and so she said it at the end of her being on, but we have a few things coming up, right? So we have one more week next week for our 96th episode, and then we're gone for 2 weeks. But we have some things for you guys. We have some connected and vision coming up, right? So we know that it's December. A lot of times we joke about, oh, well, they're just New Year's resolutions because it's the beginning of the year, right? But we're going to take the opportunity to reset, look at our year, look at what our goals are. Christine and I were talking about our vision boards. And when I look at it, y'all, I have retail space on there. And if you guys have been following us, Shaylo Glow has opened the retail space. So come be intentional with us, get plugged in. We're going to have the details coming out for you soon. Again, this is episode 95. So we have the 2-year anniversary coming up in January. We have the
Okay.
100th episode coming up in January. We've got more events outside of the Connected and Vision. So stay tuned.
We have a slate of incredible women coming to you in
Yes.
2023, y'all. Like, it has been, and if you know somebody that you think needs to be featured on Women Connecting Wisdom, or maybe you yourself as you're listening, are like, I want to share my story, go
Yeah.
to our website at womenconnectingwisdom.com and reach out to us and let us know. But I wanted to say, Shannon, before we jump off, our
Yes.
virtual Connected and Vision party, our second annual one, is on January the 4th at 6:30 p.m. And
Yes.
we'll put the link to that in our show notes and we'll be talking about it again, y'all. But you can find out more info once we get it uploaded on the website.
Right. Right. It's all coming. It's all coming. So thank you again for an amazing year. And we'll be back live next week for the last live episode of 2022. So make sure that you're there live at 5. And in the meantime,
Wait, I have to say one more thing.
what are you gonna say?
We didn't say it at the top of the show, but congrats, Senator Reverend Raphael Warnock, our new senator in
Yes.
Georgia. Thank you, Georgians, for showing up to vote.
Yeah, they
We
did.
talk about it on the show. Gratitude, gratitude, gratitude. History was made last night.
Yes. Good job. Good job. And yes, we will be back next week. In the meantime, be well, be wise, be whole. We'll see you soon.